is, as we all know, a video game. A vast universe-birthing, world-destroying, life-changing, reality-walking mind-bender of a video game, but one nonetheless. And no good action RPG would be much fun without a few boss fights, would it? Welcome back to the lore of Homestuck, with a small supplementary video on the Classpects series, where we'll be discussing the Classpects bosses of players of personal planets, the Denizens. Denizens are basically insanely powerful NPCs found in Spur Obsessions. While not nearly as powerful as the Black Monarchy, they are the first real challenge that a player can face on their personal world, as the Denizens control the underlings and are responsible for many of the problems found in the player's planets. They are at first supposedly asleep within each player's planet, but as the player progresses through the 7 gates, they awake. However, visiting Denizens early causes them to wake up prematurely, an action that will usually result in the player who did this being reduced to a plate of failure-flavoured jam in short order. Each is said to guard an immense grist hoard to be released upon their defeat and used for the ultimate alchemy, something we discussed in the video about grist. Grist. Having said that, their true purpose, or one of them, appears to be offering players the choice. As the name suggests, the choice is an offer which differs depending on the circumstances, but seems to be based across the board on facing your own mortality. Whichever outcome comes from the choice, the player should always be able to complete their game one way or another. Of course, if the player wishes to keep the nature of the conversation with their denizen secret, it's very easy, since the denizens speak in a language that only respective players can understand. This, however, can span between sessions, since every version of the denizen known as Echidna can speak to Kanaya, Jade, and Calliope, as she is the denizen of all space players. It is also speculated that some of the denizens may have a connection to the aspects that form part of the player's title, clearly not universal. While some of the denizens appear to have connections to a player's aspect, others, like Yabroth, who is assigned to both a Hero of Heart and a Hero of Time, and is described as a rare denizen that is usually designated for the most naturally gifted warriors, and as such seems to be absence of such connections. Karka also described his denizen in a similar yet opposite way, stating that his denizen may be one reserved for the weakest players. Given this, it is unknown if the apparent connections are coincidence, or if only some denizens are connected to aspects, or if aspects are only a single factor in denizen assignment. In Christian Gnosticism, it is said that Yabroth's light gives a man a soul. This connects to how Dirk is the Prince of Heart, and his ability is affiliated with souls. So far, all confirmed player denizens pairings share the same gender. However, if most denizens are tied to aspects, this may not always be the case. Now that we've established what a denizen is, we'll go through a little bit about the ones we've seen in the comic storyline, as well as what little we know about them. Denizens perhaps being one of the least explored aspects of Homestuck. Typhus is the denizen of John Egbert in the land of Wind and Shade. He may also be Tavros and Rufio Nightram's denizen if he is tied to the breath aspect. According to a salamander in Loas in the Flash at the start of Act 4, before he fell asleep, Typhus cast a spell on the fireflies, trapping them under the clouds, was commissioned by agents of Durst to create an army of underlings, and befouling Loas with sludge, clogging the pipes in the process. In Greek myth, Typhus was a terrible monster that even the gods feared, and after he was defeated, was trapped underground, specifically under Mount Etna, the volcano Hephaestus was said to reside in. Cetus is the denizen of Rose Lalonde and Vriska Circuit, 2 heroes of light in the land of light and rain and the land of maps and treasure, respectively. She also may be Arnea Circuit's denizen if she is tied to the light aspect. However, there is contradictory evidence on the matter. According to Jasper Sprite, Rose's denizen ate everything in the ocean, and it got so full that it took a long nap. Vriska refers to Cetus as a female, and says that she was babbling in riddles throughout most of her fight. In Greek myth, Cetus was a large fish, serpent, whale, or sea monster, which could explain all the fish in Lola being eaten, and why the Trolls version of Cetus was found amidst shipwrecks. Additionally, Ovid's Metamorphosis describes Cetus as having purple blood, Rose's associated colour. Hephaestus, the Lord of the Forge, is the denizen of Dave Strider in the land of heat and clockwork. He may also be Aradi and Damara Megiddo's denizen if he is tied to the time aspect. He possesses a hammer called Fear No Anvil that had its capture lock code acquired by alternate Dave through shenanigans. Like some of the other denizens, it is insinuated that he was not actually sleeping, but instead just laying irritably dormant until the Forge appeared. In Greek myth, Hephaestus lived in a volcano and was the god of blacksmithing and fire. Echidna, the mother of all monsters, is the denizen of Jade Harley and Kanaya Mariam, two heroes of space in the land of frost and frogs and the land of raisin frogs, respectively. She is also alternate Calliope's denizen in a doomed timeline. She may also be Porum Mariam's denizen if she's tied to the space aspect. There is, however, contradictory evidence on the matter suggesting that Arnea may have had Echidna as a denizen instead. In Greek myth, Echidna was considered to be the mate of Typhus and the mother of all monsters in that she actually gave birth to them. Echidna has a white serpentine body with breasts and a head, with her body terminating in two blue snake tails. Her browser icon shows no discernible quills, but they appear to simply prod from her back, as they are visible on side-facing statues. It is of note that Echidna's quills can be used not only as a weapon, but they're also one of the only things sharp enough to scratch the beat macer, and may be necessary to carry out the full process of a scratch. This denizen having quills is most likely a reference to the real-life animal sharing the same name. If Calliope had predominated over Caliborn and played the game instead, Echidna would have replaced Yalbaroth as the session's only denizen. Speaking of whom, Yalbaroth, the self-proclaimed god of all monsters, the most powerful and rarest of all denizens, is Dirk Strider's denizen in the land of tombs and Krypton, and Caliborn's denizen on Earth, or the land of colours and mayhem, making him one of only two denizens confirmed to have been assigned to players in multiple aspects, the other being Abraxas. He is among the first denizens to actually be thrown in Homestuck, along with Typhus and Echidna. In Christian Gnosticism, Yalbaroth, who is very close to the sound of the word childhood in Hebrew, Yalbut, is the Demiurge, a being who was responsible for the creation of the universe. Whilst Yalbaroth is not a classical Greek figure in mythology, as per the previous 6 revealed denizens, the concept of a demiurge was originally derived from the Platonic dialogue Timyrus, which is part of the chat handle of one of the players who has Yalbaroth as a denizen, Dirk. Abraxas is the denizen of Jake English in the land of Mounds and Zion. Like Yalbaroth, he originates from Gnosticism, making it unclear if he possesses connections to any aspects. However, he appears to be connected to angels, in particular the cherubim, which are in turn associated with the aspects of hope, potentially making him Eridan and Cronus and Porus denizen if he is tied to this aspect. Abraxas was a word of mystic meaning in the system of the Gnostic Ballastes. This is the second denizen that appears in Gnostic texts, the first being Yalbaroth, once again showing their duality. Opinions around Abraxas, who in recent centuries has been claimed to be both an Egyptian god and a demon. The Swiss psychologist Carl Jung wrote a short Gnostic treatise called The Seven Sermons of the Dead, which called Abraxas a god higher than the Christian god and devil, that combines all opposites into one being. These interpretations may be connected to Calliope and Caliborn. Last we have two denizens we know very little about, save for their names, Hermania and Nyx. Hermania is the denizen of Jane Crocker in the land of Crypt and Helium. She may also be for fairy Amina Pesci's denizen if she's tied to the life aspect. In Greek myth, Hermania is considered to be the personification of daytime. Nyx is the denizen of Roxy Lalonde in the land of pyramids and neon. She may also be Equius and Horace Zahak's denizen if she is tied to the void aspect. It makes sense because they can be both associated with the night. In Greek myth, Nyx, spelled Nyx or Nix, is considered to be the personification of nighttime. And with that, we've covered all the main information that we know for certain of the canon of Homestuck. This is a subject full of fan speculation and conjecture, like the idea of a sphinx being the denizen from mine, but hey, I hope we've been able to provide you with a good understanding on the enigmatic denizens. If you're interested in learning more Homestuck lore, do like and subscribe and drop us a comment below about your thoughts on denizens. Until next time, I've been the Garden. See ya!